Alien girl caught stealing human's pillow. She stammers, "It smells like you." Elias froze, hand mid-reach for the dented ration pack. The beam of his scavenged light caster hit her square on, illuminating skin the color of deep space bruises, etched with swirling, pulsating lines that hummed faintly with contained energy. She clutched the synthetic pillow like it was a sacred artifact, her large, multifaceted eyes blinking slowly, reflecting the light like scattered stars. Her form was humanoid enough, but taller, leaner, with strangely articulated joints, and fine, almost invisible hair covering her exposed limbs. Two small, fleshy nodes pulsed gently at the base of her throat, emitting that faint, rhythmic hum. He hadn't heard her enter the wreck, not over the wind howling through the rusted hull of the Stardust Drifter. Trust his luck. Crash on an uncharted magnet rock, find a hidden cave that looks like a sanctuary from the dust storms, and immediately attract the local fauna. Only, this wasn't fauna. This looked like trouble wearing glowing tattoos and clutching his damn pillow. "The hell, Brutba," he managed, voice rough from dust and disuse. She flinched back slightly, the pillow held tighter to her chest. Her voice, when it came, was a low, resonant frequency that vibrated in his bones, accented by a strange click. You possess presence?" Her language wasn't standard galactic. It had a raw, ancient quality to it, but his translator implant, usually useless out here, sputtered to life, parsing the resonant clicks and hums into something vaguely understandable. "Presence? Yeah, I'm present, and I think you're stealing my pillow, presence." "What the actual fuck are you doing?" He lowered the lightcaster a fraction, trying to gauge if she was hostile. She didn't look armed, but her stance was tense, ready to spring. The glowing lines on her skin intensified their thrumming rhythm. Stealing? Her head tilted. A movement slightly too sharp, too fast. "No." Observing, she gestured to the pillow. "It holds trace print." "Trace print?" "It holds my drool and the faint smell of desperation and cheap synthetic fabric." He took a step forward, wary. "Look, I don't know what your deal is, lady, but that's mine. I'm crashed. I'm low on supplies, and that pillow is literally the only soft thing I own that doesn't have my guts spilled on it. Give it back." Her eyes, reflecting the light, seemed to narrow. "It smells like you," she repeated, slower this time, the hum from her throat nodes deepening in pitch. This wasn't just curiosity. There was something in her tone, a possessiveness, that sent a jolt down his spine. "Yeah, that's generally how pillows I sleep on work," he said, forcing a laugh that sounded brittle. "What's that mean to you? Is smelling like me some kind of high crime around here? Am I going to get fined for having a potent personal aroma?" She took another step back, towards the deeper shadows of the cave. "It means you are marked. Your scent is strong." "It is." She trailed off, looking at the pillow, then back at him. "Pod in. Needed. Needed. By who? For what?" This was getting weirder by the second. He was stuck on a hostile planet with a possibly crazy alien who thought his pillow was important because it smelled like him. His life was officially a joke, and the punchline involved laundry. "Okay, let's back up," he said, holding his hands up slightly. "Who are you? What is this place? And seriously, why my pillow?" She didn't answer immediately. Her attention seemed fixed on him, her multifaceted eyes scanning him with unnerving intensity. The humming from her throat nodes increased again, a low, continuous thrum that made the air feel heavy. "I am Kathar," she said finally, her voice still resonating through him. "Of the Stone Kin, this is the outer fringe. Forbidden ground. Forbidden ground." "Great. Just his luck." "Elias," he offered, though she hadn't asked. "Human. Recently relocated against my will." He eyed the pillow again. "And you're still holding my pillow, Kathar of the Stone Kin. Is it a ritual object? Does it grant wishes? Does it magically make you comfortable on a hard magnetic floor?" A flicker, maybe amusement, maybe something else, crossed her strange features. "Ritual, perhaps," she murmured, more to herself than to him. "It holds resonance. Resonance. Scent. Needed. marked. This was definitely not going to be a simple alien encounter. He had a feeling his pillow was the least of his problems now. The air grew colder, and the humming from Kathar intensified, vibrating the dust motes in the air around her. She wasn't just observing, she was assessing, and he had a disturbing feeling her assessment wasn't about his hygiene habits. Kathar took a step closer, her movement unnervingly fluid, for her angular frame. The pulsating lines on her skin glowed brighter now, casting an ethereal blue-white light that flickered across the rough cave walls. The hum from her throat nodes was a constant, low thrum, almost a purr vibrating in his chest. "You are unlike the kin," she stated, stating the obvious, with a tone that suggested it was a profound observation. Soft, loud, the scent, the potent. She held the pillow out slightly, still clutching it possessively. "This holds your essence. It is necessary." "My essence?" Elias snorted. "Lady, that's just my BO and maybe some residual space grime. There's nothing necessary about it unless you plan on starting a laundry service." He watched her closely, his hand subtly drifting towards the multi-tool clipped to his belt. It wasn't much against a creature that looked like it could crack rocks with its bare hands. But it was something. "The kin value resonance," Kathar continued, ignoring his sarcasm, her eyes fixed on him, those myriad facets reflecting his image. "Strength of being. It is measured in scent print. In resonance, yours is disruptive." "Disruptive? Was that alien for you, Stink?" "Yeah, well, I've been camping out in a wreck for days. Not exactly optimal conditions for cologne application." He needed to understand what she wanted. If she thought his pillow was important, maybe he could trade it for passage or help. "Okay, Kathar, let's make a deal. You give me back my pillow and maybe you help me get off this rock. I'm a scavenger, got skills, can fix things, bypass locks, find stuff. Useful guy." She didn't react to the offer. Her gaze was still locked on him, studying him with an intensity that felt violating. "The elders, they will detect your presence," she said, the low hum in her voice shifting slightly, gaining an edge of warning? Or maybe anticipation? "Your resonance disrupts the harmony." "Elders?" Elias's mind raced. Were these the local authorities? The reason this area was forbidden? Are the elders going to arrest me for disrupting harmony with my disruptive resonance? Because I've got a feeling a strongly worded warning isn't their style. A strange smile, if it was a smile, touched her lips. Her mouth opened slightly, revealing not teeth, but rows of small crystalline structures that pulsed with faint internal light. The sight sent a shiver down his spine. "Arrest? No, the elders. They call disruptions. They maintain the purity of the stonekin." Cull. Right. This just got worse. He was a disruption on their forbidden ground. And she, Kathar, seemed to be part of this picture, maybe the one sent to cull him. But she was still holding his pillow, talking about his scent. It didn't fit the picture of a simple executioner. "So you're here to cull me?" he asked, keeping his voice even, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "Is that it?" "And the pillow is Dion, evidence, or a trophy?" She tilted her head again. "I am here." "That they need," she said, the humming intensifying. "The elders, they seek you. But I found you first." The possessiveness was back, stronger this time. She wasn't just hunting him, she was claiming him, or his pillow, or both. And the pillow was somehow the key. "You found me? Like, you were looking for me specifically? Your crash? The disruption. Aya was detected," she explained, her voice lower now, almost confidential. "A foreign resonance. Strong, out of place." She gestured with the hand holding the pillow. "The elders sent the hunters. They seek the source, to eliminate it." Shit. He wasn't just trespassing. His very existence on this planet was a threat to their weird, scent-obsessed, elder-ruled culture. And Kathar wasn't just a random encounter. She was tied to the hunt. But why wasn't she attacking? "Why the fixation on the pillow?" "And you're not one of the hunters?" he pressed, or are you just getting first dibs? Kathar straightened up, her form becoming more rigid, more imposing. The glowing lines on her skin flared, casting a brighter, pulsing light. I am Kathar, daughter of the third stone, heir of the resonance chamber. I hunt my own necessity. She held the pillow up, and the light from her skin seemed to focus on it, making the cheap synthetic fibers glow faintly. This is my claim. Claim. There was that word again. And it was tied to the pillow, to his scent, to him. He was claimed by an alien who stole his pillow? His life had officially entered a new dimension of absurdity, but under the absurdity was a cold, hard fear. The elders wanted to cull him. Kathar claimed him. Neither option sounded particularly appealing. He needed to figure out what her claim meant before the culling arrived. And he still wanted his damn pillow back. Your claim? Elias repeated, his voice rising slightly in disbelief. You're claiming my pillow? As like ownership rights to my headrest? Or is this claim on something bigger, like, say, the guy who owns the pillow? Kathar's multifaceted eyes narrowed slightly, her crystalline mouth remaining neutral. The low hum from her throat nodes seemed to vibrate the very air between them, a tangible pressure. The claim is on the source of the resonance, she stated, her voice resonating with absolute certainty. The one who carries the potent scent print. You, Elias. You are claimed, she gestured with the pillow. This is merely tinned evidence of contact. A marker, a marker, a marker. He blinked. So, you stole my pillow to prove you found me. Couldn't you just, I don't know, take a picture? Or send a carrier pigeon? Or radio back? Found the stinky human. Sarcasm, his default defense mechanism, was firing on all cylinders. She seemed immune to it, though. Proof is necessary, she said, her gaze intense. Especially with the elders. They question my methods. My purpose. Her grip on the pillow tightened. Your scent print is strong. It resonates with a specific frequency. One the elders deemed the dangerous. To be eradicated. Dangerous frequency? Was his body emitting some kind of signal he didn't know about? Was this related to his crash? He'd been running a risky salvage operation near a rumored ancient power source when his ship failed. Could that have done something to him? So the elders want to eradicate me because I'm some kind of walking radio interference? He asked, trying to process this. And you, Kathar, decided to claim me instead. Why? Why not just let the elders call the noisy human? A strange expression flickered across her face, something that might have been pain or conflict. My purpose differs from the elders, she said evasively. They seek erasure. I seek understanding and resonance. She took a step closer, the pillow still held protectively. Your resonance, it calls to something within me. Something died forbidden. Forbidden, elders claimed, resonance. This wasn't just a random alien encounter. There was a deep cultural undercurrent here, and he was somehow caught in the middle of it. And Kathar, the alien who stole his pillow, seemed to be an outcast or rebel within her own society. Forbidden, huh? So, you're like the black sheep of the glowing tattoo brigade, he ventured. And claiming me as somehow part of your rebellion? She didn't confirm or deny, but her posture tensed. The elders are coming, she warned, her voice dropping to a low growl. Their seekers are swift. They will find the disruption soon. She looked around the cave, her multifaceted eyes scanning the shadows. This place is exposed. We must move. Move? Elias felt a surge of adrenaline. Move where? With you? You just told me your whole family wants to vaporize me, and you claimed me for mysterious forbidden reasons involving my body odor. He gestured wildly. This is not a healthy basis for a road trip. Survival is necessary, Kathar stated, her tone shifting from strange possessiveness to raw command. My claim offers pathway. It does not guarantee safety. But alone, you are a beacon in the void, easily extinguished. She took another step towards him, the humming from her throat nodes intensifying to a deep, resonant thrum that filled the cave. Her eyes locked with his, and he felt a strange pressure behind his own, as if she was probing his thoughts, his presence, directly. It wasn't telepathy exactly, more like a sensory overload, a direct perception of his internal state. "Your fear is potent," she observed, her voice almost conversational, despite the intensity of the moment. "But your will is resilient. It pulses against the fear." He flinched back from the psychic pressure. "Get out of my head," he snapped, instinctively shielding his mind. "And yeah, I'm scared. Wouldn't you be? Alien lady just told me her elders want to kill me and she claimed me instead." Kathar seemed momentarily distracted by his reaction, her head tilting again. "Your internal landscape is chaotic," she murmured, but the resonance remained strong. She held the pillow out to him, a strange offering. "Take it, evidence of my claim. Keep it close. It binds my purpose to your survival." For now, his pillow, evidence, binding. His mind reeled. He took the pillow mechanically, the faint, familiar scent, a bizarre anchor in the midst of this alien insanity. It smelled like him, just like she said. And now, apparently, it was the symbol of his involuntary claiming by a renegade alien heiress, trying to evade her murderous elders. His life was less a joke and more a surreal, existential horror comedy. And the elders were coming. Elias clutched the pillow, feeling like an idiot. An idiot with a death sentence from alien elders and a bizarre guardian angel who smelled his laundry and decided he was hers. "Okay, fine," he said, shoving the pillow under his arm. "We move. But you lead. And you explain everything. What this claiming means, why the elders hate my guts, and what your forbidden purpose is. Got it?" Kathar gave a short, sharp nod, the rhythmic humming from her throat nodes intensifying. She turned and moved swiftly towards the back of the cave, a narrow passage opening into the darkness. "Follow. Explanations come with distance from the seekers." Her voice was still resonant, commanding, but there was a hint of urgency now. He didn't hesitate. Staying put meant waiting for whatever culling the elders had in mind. Going with Khan meant venturing into the unknown, with a strange alien who had issues with his scent. But it was a chance, a slim one, but a chance. He followed her into the tight, winding passage. The air grew colder. The rock walls seemed to absorb the light. The humming from Kathar ahead was his only guide through the absolute darkness. "So, resonance," he called out, trying to make conversation over the sound of their footsteps. "Is that like spiritual energy? Or just a fancy word for smell?" No answer immediately. He heard her navigate a tricky turn, a faint scuff of her strange jointed limbs against rock. "Resonance is being," she said finally, her voice echoing strangely in the passage. "It is the unique vibration of life. Strong resonance indicates strong being. Weak resonance, fades. The elders, they seek to control all strong resonance that is not of pure kin lineage, to prevent interference." "Interference with what?" "The great pattern," Kathar replied. "The interconnectedness of all stone kin. They believe foreign resonance disrupts the harmony, weakens the pattern." "Right. So, my particular brand of strong resonance is a threat to their spiritual Wi-Fi network." Elias couldn't help the sarcasm. It was easier than panicking. "And your forbidden purpose? Does it involve, like, embracing disruptive resonance? Are you collecting stray signals?" "Saktimir." Kathar stopped abruptly. Elias nearly ran into her. She turned, and in the faint light, reflecting from her skin, he could see her gaze fixed on him. "My purpose," she said, her voice low and intense, "is personal. It requires a specific type of resonance. One, resonant with power, with resilience." She reached out, her fingers, longer and more slender than his, brushing against his arm. The contact sent a jolt through him, a strange sensation that wasn't just physical, but somehow echoed that psychic pressure he felt earlier. It was like his very atoms were humming in response to her touch. Your resonance, down her lines, she murmured, her voice softer now, less commanding, almost. Good. Curious. It calls to the need, he tensed under her touch. This was crossing a line from bizarre to disturbing. His pillow was one thing, his body was another. Whoa there, he said, pulling back slightly. Aligns with your need? What kind of need are we talking about here, Kathar? Because if this is going where I think it's going, I'm drawing some very uncomfortable conclusions about your culture's rituals. She didn't release his arm immediately. Her thumb stroked lightly over the fabric of his worn flight suit, lingering near his wrist. The strange humming from her throat nodes seemed to deepen, vibrating against his skin through her touch. My culture, it values strength, resonance, the merging of powerful streams to create new patterns. Her eyes, those complex, multifaceted eyes, seemed to hold his gaze, not just visually, but with that same strange resonant pressure. Your resonance, it is the strongest I have encountered from a non-kin, potent, untamed, powerful, aligns with her need. This was getting seriously erotic in the most terrifying way possible. He was trapped underground, with an alien woman who saw him not as a person, but as a source of potent, untamed resonance that aligned with her forbidden need, all while clutching his pillow. Untamed, huh? Is that why you claimed me? To tame the wild human resonance? He asked, trying to inject some levity, but his voice was tight. Kathar's mouth, the crystalline structures faintly glowing, seemed to soften slightly. To test it, she corrected, her voice a low murmur, to see if it can withstand the merging, test. Withstand. He didn't like the sound of any of those words, especially not combined with her intense gaze and the vibrating touch on his arm. The air in the narrow passage felt suddenly thick, charged not just with dust and the hum of her biology, but with something else entirely, physical tension. It was palpable, uncomfortable, and undeniably present. And they were still being hunted by elders who wanted him dead. Kathar finally released his arm, though the strange resonance lingered on his skin like a phantom touch. She turned back into the passage, her glowing lines pulsing with a slightly faster rhythm now. The test will reveal your capacity, she said, her voice returning to its commanding tone, though laced with that new undercurrent of something Elias couldn't quite name. Hunger, anticipation, capacity for what? He asked, following her deeper into the darkness. Capacity for survival? Capacity for putting up with bizarre alien rituals involving my dirty laundry? Capacity for resonance merging, she stated simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the universe. The blending of powerful streams to create a new current, strong enough to challenge the pattern, challenge the elders. Okay? He was starting to piece it together. Kathar was some kind of dissident, and she believed his strong, untamed resonance could help her in her rebellion. And the resonance merging sounded suspiciously like some kind of mating or bonding ritual. So you want to merge my resonance with yours? Is that your version of mating? And is that why the elders hate it? Because you're trying to merge with a non-keen. He pushed for clarity. He needed to know exactly what he'd stumbled into. The elders forbid non-keen merging, Kathar confirmed, her voice low. They believe it weakens the lineage, dilutes the pattern. But the pattern is stagnant, weak. It needs dire disruption, new current. She stopped again, the passage opening slightly into a small, rough-hewn chamber. The air here was warmer, still thick with the scent of minerals and something else. Something earthy and faintly sweet. This is a temporary refuge, she announced, used by those who walk the fringes. Elias looked around the small chamber. It was bare stone, but somehow felt lived in. There were faint markings on the walls he couldn't decipher. The warmth seemed to emanate from the rock itself. It wasn't much, but it beat the dusty wreck. Refuge from the Seekers, he asked. How long before they find this place? They sense only the disruption, Kathar replied, moving towards a small dark alcove in the back of the chamber. Not the specific signature once the source is contained and shielded. She glanced back at him, her eyes catching the faint light. This chamber shields residual resonance. For a time, contained and shielded. That didn't sound promising. He leaned against a rough wall, still clutching his pillow. And how exactly do you plan on containing my disruptive, potent, untamed resonance? He asked, a knot of apprehension tightening in his gut. Kathar turned fully to face him, her form silhouetted against the slightly darker alcove. The humming from her throat nodes deepened, the sound filling the small chamber. Through the resonance merging, she stated, her voice resonating with power. It will bind your current to mine. Make it less visible to the elder's senses, a necessary act for survival. For both of us. She took a step towards him, her movements deliberate, almost predatory. The glowing lines on her skin flared, bathing the chamber in that pulsing blue-white light. It must be done soon, before the Seekers pinpoint our location. So, let me get this straight, Elias said, backing away slightly, until his back hit the cold stone wall. You kidnapped me, stole my pillow because it smelled like me, dragged me into a cave, told me your family wants to kill me because I mess up their spiritual network, and now you're saying the only way we survive is to do some kind of forbidden alien mating ritual that involves merging our resonance. He threw his hands up. Is that about right? Kathar stopped just before him, her head tilted back slightly to look down at him. Her presence was overwhelming in the small space. The air crackled with the energy radiating from her. It is not a ritual of conventional pairing, she corrected, her voice low, the hum a deep thrum against his bones. It is a forging, a binding of essence, necessary for the creation of the new current. For the challenge, her multifaceted eyes seemed to bore into him, probing deeper than before. And your resonance. It calls for it. It responds to mine. I can sense it, Elias. The pull is mutual. Mutual pull. He felt a pull. All right, a pull between abject terror and a strange, forbidden fascination with the powerful, alien woman standing before him, radiating power and intent. His body, despite his fear and confusion, was reacting to her proximity, to the strange energy, to the raw, undeniable power she exuded. He was hard. God damn it, he was hard. At a time like this, his own body was betraying him. Yeah, well, my body's kind of an idiot sometimes, he muttered, trying to control his breathing. It reacts to weird stuff. Kathar's crystalline mouth parted slightly, a soft sound escaping her throat nodes. A sound that might have been amusement. The body does not lie, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. It speaks the truth of resonance. She reached out again, her hand hovering near his chest, feeling the frantic beat of his heart. Yours speaks loudly, Elias. It welcomes the merging. This wasn't just talk anymore. This was happening. Here, in this small, warm, temporary refuge, with alien elders hot on their trail, Kathar was going to merge their resonance, and he had a feeling there was only one way that was going to happen. Kathar's hand settled on his chest, the contact sparking a strange heat that spread through his skin, deeper than a mere touch. The humming from her throat nodes intensified, vibrating not just the air but his very ribcage. He could feel his heartbeat accelerating wildly under her palm. The merging requires total contact, she stated, her voice low, resonant, filled with an alien certainty that bypassed all his rational defenses. Her multifaceted eyes held his, the light reflecting within them shifting and swirling like captured nebulae. A complete intermingling of resonance streams. There can be no resistance, only flow. No resistance. Flow. Right. He was trapped in a cave with a dominant alien woman who saw him as a power source for her rebellion and intended to perform a forbidden ritual that definitely involved sex. His mind was screaming. His body was less argumentative. The strange heat spreading from her touch was undeniably potent, and the sheer alienness of the situation was hitting some primal part of his brain. Flow, huh? What if I'm more of a rapids kind of guy? Choppy. Unpredictable? He tried. injecting humor, but his voice was shaky. Kathar's mouth, the crystalline structures glowing faintly, curved into what might have been a genuine smile this time. It was a terrifying sight. Then the merging will be energetic, she murmured, her thumb stroking lightly over his chest. A challenge, to forge resilience from chaos. She leaned closer, and he could feel the radiated heat from her body, the subtle shift in the air, as her own strange alien scent mingled with his. It wasn't unpleasant. It was intoxicating, primal. The seeker's approach, she warned, the urgency returning to her voice, but it was layered with something else now, something heated and raw. The shield is temporary. The merging, Bunny must begin. She didn't ask. She didn't wait for permission. She simply acted. Her free hand went to the front of his flight suit, the strange jointed fingers surprisingly deft as they fumbled with the ancient magnetic seal. The material ripped slightly under her impatient pull, exposing his skin to the cool cave air and her burning touch. A shiver ran through him, part cold, part anticipation. Her hand moved down, her fingers tracing the line of his abdominal muscles, sparking fire wherever they touched. His breath hitched. Kathar, gonna, he managed, the name a low groan. Total contact, she repeated, her voice a husky whisper that vibrated directly into his skull. Her head lowered, and he felt the soft brush of her hairless scalp against his chest before her mouth. The crystalline structures, now vibrating slightly, settled against his skin near his heart. It wasn't a kiss, not in the human sense. It was something else entirely, a deep pressure, a focused absorption of energy. He felt a dizzying pull, a sensation like his very core was being drawn out of him. The humming from her throat nodes pulsed against his skin, syncing somehow with the frantic beat of his heart. It was overwhelming, disorienting, and intensely erotic. His hands, which had been braced against the wall, found their way to her strange, angular shoulders. Gripping them tightly, her free hand continued its exploration, moving lower, finding the waistband of his worn trousers. He knew exactly where this was going, and despite the danger, the fear, the sheer alien absurdity of it all, he couldn't stop it, didn't entirely want to stop it. This was survival. This was forbidden. This was primal. Her touch was demanding, exploring, utterly focused on her goal of resonance merging. His clothes were quickly discarded, torn or pushed aside with impatient efficiency. The cool cave air against his heated skin only heightened the contrast as she pressed her body fully against his. Her skin was smooth, strangely cool to the touch, despite the heat radiating from her. The glowing lines on her body pulsed in time with the deep hum that emanated from her throat nodes, creating a mesmerizing, erotic display in the dim light. He could feel the subtle differences in their anatomy, the strange articulation of her limbs against his. Her multifaceted eyes were closed, her head tilted back slightly, exposing the humming nodes at her throat. It was his turn to touch, to explore. His hands traced the glowing lines on her back, feeling the strange vibration beneath his fingertips. This was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Not just alien, but fundamentally different. A biological imperative layered with cultural significance he only vaguely understood. Kathar's head lifted from his chest, her eyes opening, meeting his. The multifaceted depths seemed to swirl with intense emotion, raw and alien. The humming from her throat nodes increased in pitch, a low, building keen that resonated throughout the small chamber. Her hands moved to cup his face, her touch surprisingly gentle despite her earlier roughness. The resonance. It strengthens, she murmured, her voice tight, breathless. The merging, tiered, what calls. Her body shifted against his, aligning in a way that made his breath catch in his throat. The pressure against him was deliberate, guiding. He felt a strange click deep within her body, a subtle shift that sent a jolt of pure, undiluted pleasure through him, mingled with a shock that stole his breath. It was physical, yes, intensely so, but also something more, a connection that went deeper than skin and muscle. It was the merging, raw, intense. Her alien anatomy was a revelation, strange and perfect in ways his human mind couldn't have imagined. He cried out, a choked sound lost in the low keen emanating from her throat. Her grip tightened on his face, holding him steady as the intensity built. The glowing lines on her skin flared, pulsing with a rapid, frantic rhythm that mirrored the pounding in his ears. He could feel her own resonance, her unique vibration mingling with his own, a chaotic, powerful storm of energy that threatened to consume him. His body responded instinctively, driven by an urge that felt primordial, necessary. It wasn't just sex anymore. It was a forging, a binding, exactly as she had described, a desperate act of survival and rebellion wrapped in raw alien intimacy. He found his rhythm with hers, driven by instinct and the overwhelming pull of her strange, powerful resonance. Her sounds shifted, the low keen becoming a series of sharp, guttural clicks and hums, sounds of exertion and something like release. His own voice was lost in the cacophony of alien sound and physical effort. The air in the chamber grew thick, charged with static electricity and the potent scent of their mingled biology. He felt a strange sensation, a tingling that started at the point of their deepest connection and spread outwards, like a wave of energy washing over him. It was disorienting, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Just as the intensity reached its peak, as his own body clenched and shuddered towards release, Kathar's head lowered again, her mouth fastening onto the skin of his shoulder, not a bite, but a deep, powerful suction, accompanied by a sharp, stinging pain. He cried out again, arching against her. He felt a warmth spreading from the point of contact, a pulsing heat that seemed to infuse itself deep into his muscle and bone. He felt something else too, a faint internal glow emanating from his shoulder. When the wave of pleasure finally broke over him, leaving him breathless and trembling, it was mingled with the dull ache on his shoulder and a profound sense of connection. Not just to Kathar, but to something larger, something alien and ancient. He collapsed against her, spent, confused, his mind reeling from the physical and resonant overload. The humming from Kathar's throat nodes subsided to a low, steady thrum. Her body, still pressed against his, was damp with sweat, the glowing lines on her skin now a soft, steady glow rather than a frantic pulse. She lifted her head from his shoulder, her eyes still half closed, a look of deep exhaustion and something else etched on her face. He felt a subtle shift in the resonance between them, a sense of two separate streams now flowing in parallel, bound together by the act they had just completed. He pushed himself up slightly, the ache in his shoulder a sharp reminder of what had just happened. He looked down at the spot where she had fastened her mouth. In the dim light of the cave, illuminated by the faint glow of her skin, he could see it, a mark. A single, swirling line etched into his skin, identical in pattern to the pulsating lines on her own body, but faint, almost invisible. It pulsed with a dim internal light. She had marked him, claimed him, not just with his pillow, but with her body, in the most final, irreversible way possible. His mind finally caught up with the reality of the situation. Sex, with an alien, in a cave, while being hunted, and now he was marked. Bound. The hell, he whispered, reaching a trembling hand to touch the mark on his shoulder. It was real. It wasn't going away. Kathar watched him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. The merging is complete, she stated, her voice flat, devoid of the earlier intensity. The bond is forged. Your resonance, on it is contained. Hidden within mine. Hidden within hers. Contained. Bound. The implications crashed down on him, heavy and suffocating. He wasn't just linked to her now, he was part of her. And she had just done it without explanation, without his full consent, in the name of survival and rebellion. The raw, brutal reality of the situation stripped away all the strange eroticism and primal urges of the past few minutes. He felt violated, used, and irrevocably changed. Contained? He repeated, his voice rising. Hidden? You just branded me. What the hell did you do? Kathar remained impassive, her gaze steady. I marked you, she confirmed, stating the fact, like she was discussing the weather. Evidence of the merged resonance, necessary for the bond to hold, necessary for the shield to function, necessary. Her only justification. He stared at the faint, glowing mark on his shoulder, then at the alien woman who had put it there. The pillow, forgotten, lay on the floor between them. It was a symbol of his capture, his absurd initiation into this alien world, and now he had a living, glowing scar to match. Elias scrambled back, pulling his flight suit back on over his marked shoulder, a desperate attempt to cover up the raw, exposed reality of what had just happened. The faint glow of the mark seemed to burn through the fabric, a constant, unwelcome reminder. "You marked me," he said again, his voice rough with disbelief and rising anger. Like livestock. Like property. What the hell gives you the right?" Kathar sat up slowly, her strange, jointed limbs folding gracefully. The glowing lines on her skin had settled into a faint, constant shimmer. She watched him with those multifaceted eyes, her expression still unreadable, but the earlier intensity was gone, replaced by a cool, distant air. "The merging requires physical manifestation," she explained, her voice calm, measured. "The skin mark seals the bond. It is the visual representation of the shared resonance." She gestured to her own body, to the intricate, glowing patterns etched into her skin. "All kin bear marks, signs of lineage, of accomplishment, of bondings." "Yeah, but your bondings are probably with other kin, right?" Elias shot back, his anger boiling over. "Not with random crash-landed humans you claim with their pillow and then brand in a cave. This wasn't a mutual decision, Kathar. You just did it?" "Mutual decision?" Kathar tilted her head slightly, her crystalline mouth remaining neutral. "The merging was necessary for survival. The seekers draw closer. Resistance would have endangered both streams. Flow was the only viable path." Her logic was maddeningly alien. He wanted to punch something, preferably her, but the sheer power radiating from her, even now, kept him rooted to the spot, and the bizarre connection he felt, the residual resonance of their forced intimacy, complicated everything. "Survival?" he scoffed. "Is that all this was to you? Just a necessary step? To hide your damn resonance and challenge your elders?" He felt a sudden bitter pang of something that might have been hurt, buried deep beneath the anger and confusion. He had been a tool, nothing more. Kathar was silent for a long moment, her gaze sweeping over him, lingering on the spot on his shoulder where the mark pulsed faintly. When she spoke, her voice was softer, a rare note of something that might have been vulnerability entering the resonant hum. "It was more than necessary," she admitted, her eyes holding his. "Your resonance is unique. Disruptive, yes, but also compelling. It stirred something within me that had been dormant, something the pattern had suppressed." She looked away, towards the dark passage they had come through. "The elders maintain control through uniformity, through the suppression of individual resonance. My purpose, then, is to prove that true strength comes from the merging of diverse streams, not from rigid adherence to a stagnant pattern." So, he was a test subject, a walking experiment in alien socio-political rebellion. "Great, and you needed to sexually assault me and brand me to prove your point?" he asked, the bitterness sharp in his voice. Kathar flinched slightly at the term sexually assault, her strange features registering something akin to confusion, or even offense. "Assault?" she repeated, the word foreign in her mouth. "No, the merging was a joining, an exchange. Intense, yes, demanding, but not surveillance." She seemed genuinely puzzled by his reaction. This was one of those moments of awkward sexual misunderstanding the profile had mentioned, and it was anything but funny right now. "It's assault, Kathar," he stated firmly, the anger momentarily overriding his fear and confusion. "When one person does something that's significant, that irreversible to another person's body without their full understanding consent. I didn't know what merging resonance meant. I didn't agree to be marked. You just took it. A shadow passed over her face, dimming the glow of her markings. Consent, she murmured, testing the word. In the kin, merging is sought through challenge, through demonstration of strength. Surrender in the face of superior resonance is understood consent. Your body, it did not resist. It flowed. My body reacted to yours. Elias shot back. That's not the same as my mind agreeing to be branded. We're different species, Kathar. My rules aren't your rules. He felt a surge of desperation. How could he make her understand? Her culture was so utterly alien, her understanding of consent and autonomy so warped by her own norms. Difference. Is the point, she said, her gaze returning to him, filled with that strange, intense light. Your difference is what makes your resonance valuable. What makes the merging a challenge to the pattern? The mark. It is the binding of that difference. She stood up fully, her height and presence dominating the small chamber. The fallout of the merging is upon us, Elias. The seekers will detect the residual energy. They will narrow their search. She didn't apologize, didn't offer comfort, just stated the next impending disaster. He was bound to her, whether he liked it or not, marked, confused, and on the run with an alien rebel. His life had gone from bad to a spectacular, interspecies clusterfuck. Kathar moved towards the entrance of the small chamber, her movements purposeful. The air seemed to hum around her, no longer just the low thrum of her throat nodes, but a subtle expansion of her presence, a faint echo of the merged resonance. Elias could feel it too, a strange internal echo that resonated with her movements, a connection that felt both invasive and undeniably real. The mark on his shoulder pulsed faintly under his flight suit. We must move now, she stated, her voice urgent. The shield will not hold indefinitely against the seeker's focus. Elias pushed himself away from the wall, still feeling shaky. Move where? He asked, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. Deeper into forbidden territory? What's the plan, Kathar? Now that you've got your experimental human resonance successfully bonded, she glanced back at him, her multifaceted eyes holding a flicker of something he couldn't decipher. We seek the nexus, she said, an ancient point of convergence, where the pattern is weakest, where the new current can be fully forged. The nexus? He'd heard rumors of such places on certain magnetic worlds, points of intense energy or strange dimensional overlaps, dangerous places. And this forging process, does it involve anything else irreversible I should know about? Kathar hesitated, her gaze fixed on the dark passage ahead. The forging requires a test, she said finally. A demonstration of the merged resonance strength. A challenge. A challenge. Of course, nothing with Kathar was ever simple. It was always a test, a claim, a merging, a challenge. What kind of challenge? He asked, dread pooling in his gut. Does it involve fighting something? Solving riddles? Standing still while your elders try to cull us? It requires the resonance to flow unimpeded, she explained, her voice low. To withstand external pressure, to prove its resilience. She turned and started down the passage. The nexus is a place of raw energy. The challenge is to maintain the merged current within it, to let the pattern see, die and react. React. That sounded dangerous, like get vaporized by angry alien god energies kind of dangerous. But staying here meant waiting for the seekers, and running alone meant being hunted by both Kathar's people and whatever other horrors this world held. He was bound to her now, physically, ritually, resonantly. For better or worse, his fate was tied to hers. He followed her, the faint glow of the mark on his shoulder a constant companion. The air grew colder again as they moved deeper into the planet's crust. The passage twisted and turned, leading them further away from the surface, further into the unknown. So, this nexus, he said, trying to break the silence. Is it far? Are we talking days? Weeks? Am I going to starve to death before I get vaporized by your magical pattern? The nexus is not measured in surface distances, Kathar replied, her voice echoing slightly. It is a place of convergence. We follow the strongest resonance streams. The journey is guided by the bond. Guided by the bond. The mark on his shoulder gave a faint, internal pulse, like an alien compass needle pointing the way. He could feel a subtle pull, a direction his body seemed to want to move in. Even before his mind registered it, it was the resonance, their merged current, guiding them. Great, he muttered. My life is being directed by my alien love bite. Kathar stopped, turning to face him in the narrow passage. The light from her skin illuminated her face, revealing a complexity of emotion he hadn't seen before. Not just a cool commander, the strange rebel, but something deeper, vulnerability. This bond, Elias, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The usual resonance softened. It is significant. To my purpose, yes. But also, to me, the pattern is not merely an elder construct. It is the collective consciousness of the kin. To challenge it, what is to challenge destiny? This merging, it is not undertaken lightly, not even with one as disruptive as you. She reached out, her strange fingers brushing lightly against the mark on his shoulder. The touch sent a familiar wave of heat through him, but this time it was less raw power, more a gentle warmth. The risk is immense. For both of us, the pattern will not accept this foreign current easily. It will seek to neutralize it, or absorb it. Neutralize or absorb. Both sounded bad, but her touch was unexpectedly soft, and the raw, alien intimacy they had shared lingered in the air between them. Despite everything, despite the fear and the anger, he couldn't deny the pull she exerted, the strange, undeniable connection that bound them together now. He was a disruption, a foreign current, merged with an alien rebel seeking to rewrite her destiny, and their future, whatever it was now inextricably linked. They traveled for what felt like an eternity through the twisting, echoing passages beneath the magnetic desert. The mark on Elias's shoulder pulsed intermittently, a faint internal guide that Kathar seemed to sense and follow implicitly. The silence between them was heavy, filled with the unspoken fallout of their forced intimacy and the looming threat of the elders. Elias was still reeling. Every time his shoulder brushed against the rough rock wall, the faint thrum of the mark was a visceral reminder of the bond, the merging, the alien woman walking just ahead of him. He watched her move, her body flowing with an unnatural grace through the tight spaces, the glowing lines on her skin providing the only consistent light source. She was a creature of power and mystery, and he was now tied to her in a way he couldn't comprehend. So this nexus, he said eventually, breaking the silence. What exactly are we doing when we get there? Just standing in the energy field? Or is there another step to the forging? Another ritual? He braced himself for the answer. He wouldn't put anything past her at this point. Kathar paused, turning her head slightly to look back at him, over her shoulder. Her multifaceted eyes gleamed in the dim light. The nexus is a point of pure resonance, she explained, her voice low. The heart of the pattern's flow. To forge the new current, the merged resonance must endure the intensity. It must demonstrate its strength. If it is weak, it will dissipate. If it is strong, it will become a permanent part of the pattern. A disruption accepted. Accepted disruption. Still sounded like a long shot. And if the pattern decides it doesn't like our new current, he asked, does it just kick us out? Or is dissipate alien for vaporize into dust? Kathar was silent for a moment. To dissipate is to cease to exist within the pattern, she said, her voice flat. For the kin, that is the truest death. For a non-kin, the outcome is thought unknown, but likely terminal. Terminal. Right. So, they were heading to a place where they might cease to exist, all to prove a point to her metaphysical spiritual network. His life choices had never been great, but this was a new low. Fantastic, he muttered. So, this is basically a test by fire, powered by my involuntary alien love bond. Kathar didn't respond, just turned back and continued moving. He could feel the subtle pull of the bond strengthening, guiding them deeper. After a while, the passage began to widen, opening into vast, cavernous spaces. The rock walls here pulsed with a faint internal light, and the air grew heavy with energy. The humming from Kathar's throat nodes grew louder, deeper, echoing through the immense space. He could feel it too, the resonance within him vibrating in response to the energy of the environment. It was like walking into a living, breathing entity. "We are close," Kathar announced, stopping at the edge of a massive chasm. Below them, a swirling vortex of shimmering, multicolored light pulsed with incredible power. The air here was thick with energy, pressing in on him, making the mark on his shoulder burn with an intense heat. This was the nexus, raw, untamed power, and they were about to step into it. "That's the nexus?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The sight was awe-inspiring and terrifying. It felt like looking into the heart of a star but underground. "It is the convergence," Kathar confirmed, her voice resonant with reverence and determination. She turned to face him, her glowing lines flaring. "The challenge awaits." She reached out, taking his hand. Her touch was firm, her skin radiating heat, and that strange, familiar resonance. "Our streams are merged, Elias. We face this as one." He looked at her, at the determined set of her jaw, the fierce light in her eyes, the faint glow of his mark mirroring the patterns on her skin. They were bound, forged, whether he liked it or not, and now they had to face the ultimate test of their accidental bond. He gripped her hand, his fingers interlacing with her strange, jointed ones. The fear was still there, but beneath it, something else had solidified, a strange sense of purpose, of shared destiny. He had nothing left to lose. He was a scavenger, a survivor, a man who had just been branded by an alien to challenge her cosmic family. "Might as well see it through." "All right, Kathar," he said, meeting her gaze. "Let's forge this damn current." Kathar nodded, a small, almost imperceptible dip of her head. Her grip on his hand tightened, her fingers intertwining with his in a strange alien clasp. The humming from her throat nodes rose in pitch, a steady, resonant tone that seemed to call to the swirling vortex below. Elias could feel the pull of the nexus intensifying, a magnetic force that tugged at his very core. The mark on his shoulder burned, not with pain but with a vibrant, internal heat that mirrored the energies swirling below. This was it, the culmination of the crash, the pillow theft, the claiming, the merging, the challenge to the pattern. "Ready?" he asked, his voice surprisingly steady. Kathar met his gaze, her multifaceted eyes filled with fierce determination. "Resonance requires courage," she stated, her voice clear and strong, echoing slightly in the vast chamber. "Flow requires trust, trust." A strange concept coming from the alien, who had shanghaied and branded him. But looking into her eyes, feeling the strength of her hand in his, he realized there was a measure of truth to it. He had to trust her now. Their survival depended on it. Together they stepped towards the edge of the chasm. The light from the nexus below surged upwards, bathing them in its intense, multicolored glow. The energy was overwhelming, a torrent of raw power that threatened to rip him apart. He felt the mark on his shoulder pulsing furiously, connecting him directly to Kathar, to the vortex, to the strange cosmic heart of this world. Kathar's grip was his anchor. Her resonance, now inextricably linked to his, was a steadying force in the chaotic storm of energy. He could feel their merged current flowing between them, emanating from his marked shoulder, from deep within Kathar, a single unified stream pushing back against the overwhelming force of the nexus. This was the test, to maintain their bond, their merged resonance, against the might of the pattern itself. He focused on Kathar, on the feel of her hand in his, on the steady hum of her throat nodes vibrating against his skin. He poured his own energy, his own stubborn, untamed resonance, into the bond. He wouldn't dissipate. He wouldn't be absorbed. He was Elias, human, survivor, and he was merged with Kathar. They were a new current, disruptive and strong. The energy storm raged around them, but they held their ground, their merged resonance a beacon in the heart of the nexus. He could feel the pattern, a vast, ancient consciousness pressing in on them, probing, testing, trying to find a weakness in their bond. It felt like a million alien minds whispering in his ear, questioning his presence, questioning Kathar's defiance. But their merged current held. It pulsed with resilience, with the raw, chaotic strength of his human spirit blended with the fierce, determined power of Kathar's alien will. He looked at Kathar, and in her multifaceted eyes, he saw not just the alien rebel, but the individual being beneath, the one who had taken his pillow, seen something in his scent, and defied her entire culture for a chance at something new. A strange warmth spread through his chest, independent of the energy from the nexus, something akin to respect, and maybe, just maybe, something more. The pattern's pressure intensified, a final desperate push. The light from the nexus flared, blinding him. He squeezed Kathar's hand, gritting his teeth against the overwhelming force. He felt a final violent surge of energy pass between them, a sealing, a cementing of their bond. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the intense pressure subsided. The blinding light softened, and the swirling vortex below settled into a steady, powerful flow. They were still standing at the edge of the chasm, breathless but intact. The mark on his shoulder was still there, the faint glow steady now, no longer pulsing frantically. Kathar slowly released his hand. She looked at him, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her own markings and the ambient light of the nexus chamber. "The challenge, runner," she said, her voice filled with awe and exhaustion. "The merged resonance is recognized. Recognized. Accepted." He felt a strange sense of lightness, of having passed through something immense and come out changed. The connection to Kathar was still there, a quiet hum beneath his skin, a constant awareness of her presence. He looked down at the mark on his shoulder, no longer a brand of unwilling capture, but a symbol of their shared survival, their strange, forged bond. Kathar sank to her knees at the edge of the nexus chasm, her breathing heavy, the glowing lines on her skin flickering weakly. Elias knelt beside her, his own legs shaky, the energy drain profound. The nexus pulsed with a steady, powerful hum now, the wild chaos replaced by a calm, controlled flow. "Recognized?" he repeated, still trying to process what had just happened. "Does that mean your elders aren't going to cull us anymore? That the pattern's cool with the disruptive human resonance now?" Kathar looked up at him, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the soft light of the chamber. A slow, genuine smile touched her crystalline mouth this time, a sight that was both alien and strangely beautiful. "The pattern. It has accepted the new current," she explained, her voice still weak but firm. "It cannot be erased. It is now a part of the flow. The elders, their authority comes from their interpretation of the pattern. If the pattern accepts, they must adapt, or risk being seen as obsolete." Obsolete! The idea of Kathar's ultra-traditional, patriarchal elders being forced to adapt to a human-alien bond because his smelly pillow led to a forbidden merging in a cave was almost laughably absurd. Almost. "So, we're safe?" he asked, wanting to believe it, but still wary. Kathar nodded, slowly. "For now, within the nexus, the pattern's acceptance is absolute. Outside, the political fallout will be significant. The elders will not yield their power easily, but they cannot deny the pattern's will, significant political fallout." Right. So, they'd survive the existential energy test, only to potentially face an alien civil war. His life, always an adventure. He looked at the mark on his shoulder. It felt less like a scar now, more like an extension of himself, a part of this strange, alien world he was now intrinsically linked to. He looked at Kathar, at her exhausted but triumphant face, her glowing markings soft in the ambient light. They had been through hell together. Kidnapped, hunted, forced into a bizarre, intense, and ultimately bonding experience that had somehow rewritten the fundamental rules of her universe. And they had survived. "What happens now?" he asked, the question hanging in the air. Kathar reached out, her hand gently covering the mark on his shoulder. Her touch sent a familiar warmth through him, a connection that felt less like a violation and more like intimacy. Now, we face the consequence, she said, her voice low. The merging was necessary for the challenge. The challenge was necessary for the pattern's recognition, but the bond remains. It is permanent, Elias. You are kin-bound. To me, kin-bound. A permanent bond. He looked into her eyes and saw the truth of it. The shared resonance, the mark, the experience in the nexus. There was no going back. His life as a solitary human scavenger was over. He was now bound to Kathar, the alien rebel heiress, a part of her strange culture, whether he wanted it or not. A strange mix of apprehension and something else settled in his chest. It was terrifying, yes, but also intriguing. She had claimed him with a pillow, branded him in a cave, and dragged him to the heart of her world to challenge destiny. And somehow, against all odds, they had succeeded. Kin-bound, he repeated, letting the alien term settle over him. It sounded heavy. Final. Kathar's hand lingered on his shoulder, her fingers tracing the faint line of the mark. Her gaze was intense, searching his face. It is a bond of strength, she said, her voice growing stronger now. Of shared resonance. Of defiance against a stagnant pattern. She hesitated, and then, in a voice softer than he'd ever heard from her, added, a bond of proximity, forced in something more, something unexpected. Unexpected. Yeah, that was one way to put it. He looked at the glowing mark on his shoulder, then back at Kathar. He was a smart-ass scavenger, dumped on an alien rock, who had somehow ended up kin-bound to a powerful alien woman who thought his pillows smelled like destiny. His life was still a joke. But maybe, just maybe, it was a joke he could live with. He reached out, tentatively touching her cheek, feeling the smooth, strange texture of her skin, the faint hum of her life beneath his fingers. Something unexpected, he agreed, a weary smile touching his lips. Looks like we're stuck with each other, Kathar of the Stone Ken. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. Bound, she confirmed, the word resonating with a deep, quiet power. Together, we have forged a new current. Elias, let us see where it flows. He had no idea where it would flow, but for the first time since crashing on this rock, he wasn't alone. He was kin-bound to her, and somehow, that felt like the beginning of something entirely new, dangerous, and undeniably real. He was a disruption accepted, a human element woven into an alien pattern, thanks to a stolen pillow and a fight for survival that had turned into a strange, unforgettable bond. The elders might still be coming, the political fallout might be immense, but here in the heart of the nexus, bound to Kathar, he felt a sense of purpose he'd never known as a lone scavenger. They would face it together. The rogue human and the alien rebel, bound by resonance and defiance. And maybe, just maybe, something that could grow into love, forged in the fires of chaos, and claimed by scent.